Want to make something that's packed with flavor, hits all the notes? It's spicy, creamy, tangy, savory, feeds a crowd, reheats well, and it's super easy to make in one pot. Let's make one pot butter chicken. Hey everybody, it's Walter from Artistic Gourmet Adventures. My wife Kim and I own this unique small group tour company where we host groups of 6 to 12 guests for 1 week luxury adventures in beautiful locations throughout Europe and the United States. I have the privilege of being the adventure chef, creating and preparing daily gourmet meals for our guests. We also enjoy creating in-home private dinners for clients and friends when we're back in the States. Many of our guests request our recipes and want to learn cooking tips. So, in this video series, from our cozy home kitchen here in the beautiful Loire Valley of France, we will demonstrate a wide variety of recipes, from culinary classics to originals, as well as covering professional kitchen techniques for the home chef. For more information on Artistic Gourmet Adventures, check our website, linked in the description below. Now, let's start cooking. Let's take a look at our ingredients for our one pot butter chicken. The first thing is, of course, the chicken. I like to divide recipes in different sections. So the first section is the chicken. The second section is the sauce. In this case, we are using boneless chicken, and I've got a mixture of white chicken and of dark meat chicken here. So we've got our boneless chicken, which we're going to marinate in a mixture of garlic and ginger paste, a little bit of salt, and some red chili powder. So I'm just going to put those in, and we'll go ahead and get that marinating while we're talking through everything else. This needs to marinate, I don't know, 15-20 minutes should be enough. It's quite a potent mixture, so the 15-20 minutes should do it. Now for our sauce, it's really a tomato-based sauce. So we've got some tomatoes here, and I've just quartered these. I haven't skinned them. I've just quartered the tomatoes, and we've got those here in a bowl. We've got some onions. I've got a mixture of red and white onions. You could use all red, you could use all white. It doesn't matter. But we've got our onions there, and then we've got some cashews. And then, of course, it is butter chicken, so we've got a little bit of butter. Part of that butter is going to be used to sweat the onions, and that is to cook them until they're soft and translucent. And then we'll finish the dish with the rest of this butter. And then we've got some garlic paste. And now the real flavoring in this dish comes from this spice rub mixture, which is it's just a mixture of several different spices. There's about a half teaspoon of Garam Masala, which is an Indian spice mix, 2 tablespoons of Kashmiri chili powder. And if you have Kashmiri chili powder, it's best. If you can't find Kashmiri chili powder, you can use regular red chili powder with a mixture of paprika. And the biggest reason behind the Kashmiri chili powder is that it's a lot more red than just a regular chili powder that you would use. And we've also got about a half teaspoon of salt in here. You can use about 1 to 2 tablespoons of sugar. I like to err on the side of less sugar, so it's not as sweet of a dish. And then we finish it with some malt vinegar. And in this case, I've put 2 tablespoons of malt vinegar in here. And again, if you can't find malt vinegar, you can certainly use white vinegar, although white vinegar is a little bit more astringent than malt vinegar, so you use about a half a tablespoon less of that. So if your recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of malt vinegar, I'd use 1.5 tablespoons of white vinegar. So that concludes our ingredient list for our butter chicken. Let's get it going. So we are making a one pot butter chicken. Traditionally, this is a northern Indian dish. It actually originated in the region of Delhi in India, and it was originally made with chicken that was cooked in the tandoori, or the clay ovens that they use in many Indian restaurants. In this case, we are actually going to do it in one pot. So we are going to fry this, but we are going to get our oil quite hot. So we are using a grapeseed oil rather than an olive oil because it has a high smoke point, and it will get hot but not burn. So we are going to actually fry our chicken first in grapeseed oil. We've added our grapeseed oil into our Dutch oven, and we've got that on a pretty high heat, and we want it to be nice and hot so that we get a really nice char on the chicken. And since we have quite a bit, I'm actually doing a double batch. We will probably do this in batches. So you want to add your chicken, but you want to make sure you do not crowd the pot. Anytime you're frying something in oil, you want to make sure that there's enough room in the skillet for it to actually fry rather than to steam. And so we're going to do this in a couple of different batches. And we're going to fry this chicken until it's just done. It doesn't need to be actually even completely done, because we're then going to cook it. It's going to be basically stewed. So we don't want to over fry this, because if we do, then it's going to be tough at the end. So when you're doing this, just put that chicken in, and it's kind of like stir frying. You can also you can move it around pretty quickly. You can see it's already starting to caramelize. I have a pretty high heat on this grapeseed oil. So we'll do this probably in 3 different batches. We are finished frying our chicken in batches. It actually took 3 batches. So now we are removing our chicken and basically going to just leave the pot on the same fire. And you absolutely would not believe the smells that we are having in this kitchen. It's just fantastic. All right, so now this is kind of a French concept, but what you see in the bottom of this bowl is called sucs, S-U-C-S, and that is just the leftovers from frying some meat product, the protein, in a pot like this. And that is something that you want to leave in there, because now we're getting ready to make our sauce. And the first step to making our sauce is going to be to put our onions in. We've added just a little bit of butter, and we're going to put our onions in, and we're going to sweat our onions, and that is to cook them on low heat. We've turned our heat down, and we're going to cook them slowly over low heat until they are soft and translucent. Okay, our onions are nice and soft, and if I'm honest, I could just eat this entire pot of onions just the way they are. Just onions and butter is just an amazing combination, especially with all those spices that we already had in there. But I'm not going to do that. We're going to continue on. So now we add our tomatoes, and just, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but these are fresh whole tomatoes that we're using, and that's what's going to make our sauce amazing. These are fresh, ripe tomatoes. I suppose you could use canned whole tomatoes if you wanted, but I think it's just a lot better to use fresh tomatoes with this. So our tomatoes are in, and we're now going to add our nuts. And these are cashews that have not been toasted or anything. After our cashews, we're just going to add just a little bit of water, and probably about a half a cup of water in there. And we can add our garlic paste. And we'll just get everybody mixed in, get it all stirred around. And I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit so that we have some action there. And I just want to get this kind of coming up to a little bit of a a nice simmer, and then we'll add the rest of our spice mix. After putting our tomatoes in, we added enough water to just about cover the tomatoes. They're almost covered. And now we've brought that to a little bit of a boil. And now it's time to add our wonderful liquid spice flavoring mix. So now we are going to add our mix. And this is our mix that includes our salt and the vinegar and the sugar and the garam masala and the chili powder. And so we'll get that stirred in very nicely. And now we're just going to partially cover that, and we're going to let it simmer for about 15 or 20 minutes, really just enough to kind of stew the tomatoes. And just so you know, we haven't forgotten our chicken. We've just put it in a bowl to reserve it until the very end. And now it's the heat has been up to bring our mixture to a boil. Now we just turn it down so we can just simmer this for about 15 or 20 minutes. Okay, our tomatoes should be well stewed, and look at that. Nice, beautiful sauce. And so now what we'll do is we'll take this and we're going to blend it with our submersible blender. And if you don't have an immersible, this is submersible, immersible, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have one of these stick blenders, you can certainly do this in your stand blender, but it's just a lot easier to do it in the pot that we're in. So we will start that blending. And we want to get everything all blended up very well here. I usually start out on a smaller, a slower speed, and then go to a higher speed. And as we're doing this, we want to make sure that we get everything that's around the sides of the bowl in on the party as well. And we'll just finish blending all that up. So we're finishing with our sauce blended up, and it's blended up quite well with this immersible blender. So we will remove that. And now what we'll do is we'll strain this. We're actually gonna transfer this sauce into our bowl. Our mixture now has been poured into our bowl, and now we're actually just going to strain this mixture back into our original pot. So it looks quite thick, but we're using this fine mesh strainer, and the way to do this is to put that in there, put the mixture in the strainer, and we're using our ladle to just push it through. And what this does is just creates the beautiful silky sauce, and it gets rid of all of the pulp from the tomatoes and the tomato skins. So we'll finish pushing that through, and then we'll finish our sauce. Our sauce has now been strained, and as you can see, it's just a lot finer texture than it was before. And just a word of caution, when you are pushing that sauce through the strainer, just make sure you don't spill it on yourself, because if this gets on a white top, it's probably going to look more orangey red than white from now on. So you can see that the sauce is really nice and very, very fine, but it's not finished yet, which is why this is called butter chicken. So what we're going to do now, and for our intro, I'm not sure if I mentioned these ingredients, but this is actually a quite important ingredient. A lot of times butter chicken is finished with cream, but thinking of health and all that, we're going to use yogurt. So I'm putting about probably 3 or 4 tablespoons of yogurt into the mixture. and as well as our butter that we have left. And this is really what finishes the mixture. And we are actually on we've got the heat on now low. We just want to kind of bring this back up to a little bit of a simmer. And we're going to get these things all stirred in to our mixture. And this is really what makes it butter chicken. It makes it nice and creamy and smooth. It actually tastes great before, but it's a little tangy and a little bit astringent. So these extra ingredients are in the comments below, in the comment section below, where you can find the rest of these ingredients. And fenugreek is one of a finishing ingredient. Fenugreek is a spice mix that contains just a powder of fennel, mustard seed, cumin, and something called uradal. But you don't have to remember all of that. Just buy fenugreek from the store. And in the States, I know you can get it at Penzeys or other spice stores. So we'll just get all of those things mixed in, and then we'll put our chicken in. Okay. And now we will actually bring that up to a simmer, and we'll let it go for about 5 to 7 minutes. And that will finish our dish. All right, we are finished with our 1-pot butter chicken. And let's get a few more pieces of our chicken in there and some sauce. All right, and we'll just finish it with a little bit of cilantro leaf, maybe put a little bit on our rice. And there we have it, our 1-pot butter chicken, and we've paired it today with some turmeric rice and some naan bread. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, give us a thumbs up below and hit that subscribe button. It's free. And ring the bell if you want to be notified as soon as we release a new video. Also, let us know in the comments if you have any special recipe requests. We really appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.